When it comes to Bitcoin and the end of the year, I can be relaxed about it. Since I have no intention of selling any of my Bitcoin, I can remain calm about the situation. At this moment, no, not anytime soon. You might be right, but it won't happen anytime soon. For the foreseeable future, Bitcoin will remain in my portfolio. Hence, it's possible that it may reach 100,000 by year's end. In my opinion, given the current trajectory, I can see myself making $100,000 by years. And I realize I'm putting myself in a precarious position by suggesting that, but I do believe it's plausible that we may reach that level considering what we're building off of. Can you tell me what happened? The day before yesterday, the day that saw the second highest inflow into these spot ETFs ever? Over the past 2 weeks, we have had inflows of about $1 billion, and we are currently approaching $1 billion, I believe, indicating the presence of a demand. In a recent interview with Digital Asset News, Coin co-founder Guy Turner expressed his optimism in Bitcoin. Turner is planning to hold on to his coins in the hopes that their value would increase over time, since he is a firm believer in Bitcoin's long-term potential. Based on his analysis of the market, he thinks Bitcoin might hit $100,000 by year's end. Turner brought attention to the fact that Bitcoin spot ETF inflows have skyrocketed, with the most recent one-day inflow being nearly $1 billion, the second biggest ever. A strong and persistent demand for Bitcoin is indicated by the consistent attention of investors, as shown by over 2 weeks of consecutive inflows. There are 2 key factors that might drive Bitcoin's price to 100,000 by year's end, or it could remain below that level. Concentration on the United States, as is typical with them. One is the pivot, which might occur if the Federal Reserve begins to lower interest rates. The other is the election. Since crypto has become a very political subject, as we talked about at length last week, it will get increasingly political and significant as more capital enters the market, perhaps via spot ETFs. In light of the current state of affairs, I believe that during last week's broadcast, Biden had not yet vetoed SAV 121. However, he has now done so, having previously stated his intention to do so. Many people had speculated that maybe, after Trump's strong endorsement of cryptocurrency, the administration may have been moving further toward it. However, he proceeds to veto it anyhow. So I don't think it's unfair to state that the present administration's Democrats are terrible for crypto and that Trump's Republicans are excellent for crypto. Thus, in my opinion, that is the other major factor. Capital will be made available, of course, if the Federal Reserve lowers interest rates. And I believe that part of that funding might go into Bitcoin initially, and then in principle, the remaining cryptocurrency after that. On the other hand, the election is also crucial. And if we accept the results of the most recent polls, which of course are far from definitive, I think it will be intriguing to observe what happens next. On the other hand, Trump appears to be winning if we believe the latest polls. It will be interesting to watch who he appoints to positions at the Treasury, the Federal Reserve, and the SEC. It is possible that he will retain Jerome's position at the fund. I am uncertain. The Treasury will be welcoming a new employee. Given that the present chair is perhaps the most unpopular individual to ever occupy that role, I wouldn't be surprised if the SEC gets a new chairperson. It will be interesting to watch Trump's appointees if he becomes president. That indeed may have far-reaching consequences. We don't even know who he has chosen for vice president yet, so it will be quite some time before we find out. But I'm definitely looking forward to that. The standard geopolitical dangers are also present. What happens in the event of a major geopolitical event, such as a worsening of situation in the Middle East or Ukraine, would be fascinating to watch. I see. Think about the impact on the markets. It makes me wonder how Bitcoin spot ETF investors would respond. Given the current geopolitical climate, would BTC be considered a risk-on or risk-off asset? A great deal. Can so transpire? I believe that the present course is the best. By the year's end, we may witness Bitcoin's BTC value reaching 6 digits. The economy of the United States and the European Union are very different. Additionally, I believe that rate decreases are necessary in that area. It seems like everyone in the US wants rates slashed, but the US economy has been doing so well, maybe because it isn't right next to Russia, that it has been able to weather the storm. Despite certain indications of weakness in the labor market and other areas, it is able to sustain these higher rates for a longer period of time because it was not previously energy dependent on Russia. However, we have been discussing the possibility of a recession in the US and the country's deep financial troubles for more than a year now since we began doing NFA, and this discussion has persisted. But as I mentioned before, Europe is unique. A lot more inertia has befallen Europe's economy. Additionally, I believe the European Central Bank has taken this action due to their perception of having no alternative. If they can't stimulate the economy, they should at least attempt to relax conditions so that they can. Because, right, compared to countries like the US, European economies are truly floundering. Thus, the ECB's reduction does not surprise me, and there's a lot of precedent, in my opinion. The two countries that have lately cut are Switzerland and Sweden, I believe. It seems like the Bank of England was bringing it up. Even though the UK is obviously no longer a member of the EU, I agree that Europe is in a bad spot, so it's hardly shocking. Yes, in my opinion, ETH is an essential component of a well-rounded cryptocurrency portfolio. On the other hand, if you've been around for a long in the cryptocurrency space, and I'm going to assume that most of you watching this you've had plenty of opportunities to hold Ethereum. Also, you seem to have overlooked that for some reason. Also, it's possible if you sold or whatever. So, it seems like you disagree with me that ETH is an important component of a well-rounded portfolio. That's totally great with me. That isn't how some folks feel. So sure, I don't think now is the time to amass ETH if you've been in the crypto space for a while. It has dropped 20% from its peak. I believe there are more favorable opportunities available for earning money. Also, I can see how this could be a little confusing for someone who is just starting out with cryptocurrency. Since it is a component of a well-rounded investment strategy, I believe that now would be an opportune moment to accumulate with relative ease. In my opinion, its worth will skyrocket as time goes on. Spot ETFs are making their way through the system, so I expect it to rise along with them, though I'm still uncertain about the demand. A lot of people are expecting that the demand for them right from the start will be high. I mean, if you're breaking into the market at this moment, I could see this being a good opportunity for you. If you're an old pro and your portfolio doesn't include ETH, I guess you've already made up your mind. You ought to simply lie down in it now.